Welcome back to part 7 of how to make a HexTile board game in Unreal Engine 4. In the last video, we got to the point where we can select units, and then we'll display the tiles you can move to, and when you unselect them, they go away. That works on both server and client. And now what we want to work on is actually, when you have a unit selected, moving to a tile. So the way we're going to do this is within our player controller. We're going to create a couple different events. I'm going to clean this up, put a comment around this, and just call this select, unselect units. And I'm just going to resize. Okay. And what do we got down here? Leave that alone. Okay. So first one, custom event. And we'll call this move units to tile. And we'll have an input, should be our VPX tile. Let's call this tile 2. So tile we want to move to. And another custom event, move to tile server. Now we'll run on the server and be reliable. And now I'll start filling this in. So our move units to tile. First thing I want to do is check, do we have units selected? So grab our variable unit selected, run a branch, and true. I want to check one thing because I want to make sure we're setting this. So let's find references. Okay, so we're not setting this on yet. So we're unchecking it, but we're not checking it anywhere. So we have this function where we add a selected unit. So whenever we select a unit, I'll show you on clicked, if it's selected, select unit server, and then add selected unit, and this runs the player controller, which is this. So we're just going to come off here and just do a branch, and we'll connect the false. So if this variable isn't already true, so it's false, then set it to true. So when we select a unit and we don't have anybody else selected yet, this will set to true. Okay, so now we can come back to our move to, or move units to a tile. So we can only move units to a tile if we have units selected. So that makes sense. The other thing I want to do is on the tile 2, do a not equal. So if the tile we are moving to should not equal the tile that we're selecting from. So when we grab units, this is our from tile, and these will be our 2 tiles. So if you select the same tile they're already coming from, we're going to do a different type of logic. So that's what we can kind of filter out here, connect the true. So if the tile we're selecting is not the tile we're coming from, this will be when we'll actually do our movement. And we're going to do another branch. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here. And what we want to do here is grab our adjacent tiles and do contains item and this branch, and then connect this. So is the tile that we selected that we're trying to move to, is that adjacent to the tile that we're moving from, so that you can't click across the map and move there. And then if that is true, look at this logic I got here. Okay, so I'm just going to reroute this. Controlling player index, what is that called? Owning player index. So we're going to get our owning player index. No, not this one. We want the variable. Get owning player. There we go. Okay. And we're going to do a couple checks here. So the first one is going to be, is the owning player index of the tile that we're moving to, is that less than or equal to 3? So our players will be tile, or will be player indexes. Player 1 will be 0, player 2, 1, player 3 will be index 2, and player 4 will be index 3. So what this is basically going to check is the tile we're moving to owned by another player? Because the way we have this by default, and let me pull that up quick. So in our Excel sheet or CSV, whatever you're using, by default, a tile that isn't belonging to a player is 9. So you probably have something more like this, right? So all of these tiles that are the kind of neutral tiles, all are player index 9 versus, these are 0, these are 1. So what we're looking is if the tile we're moving to is owned by a player index of 0, 1, 2, or 3, which is what this will do, then we're essentially doing an attack and not a move. So that's what we're filtering out. And then the last thing I want to do is, let's pull off this, or not this one. And we will do a not equal. And we'll do another branch. So if this is true, and the owning player of the tile, if it's not equal to us, that means it's another player, and then off this true will be an attack. So let's make another custom event, and let's call this attack tile server. And this will be run on server and reliable. So again, the way this logic works, do we have units selected? Are we selecting a tile that's not the tile we're coming from? Is the tile we're selecting adjacent to the tile we're coming from? Does the tile belong to a player? And is that player not us? If that is all true, then we will do attack tile server. Okay. If that's false, we'll do move to tile server. Is that what we call this? Move to tile server. Yep. And let's pretty this up. Okay. And then the other thing is on this logic, so if it's not adjacent, we don't want to do anything. But if it doesn't belong to a unit or to a player, that means it's a neutral tile. And so then that can just come into here. Okay. Good. Okay. So then when we move, we're going to do move in this video, and we'll do the attack later. So I'm going to move this down. The first thing we want to do is in the tile from. So when we move our units, we can do the toggle adjacent, and we'll turn that off. And I think we want to add a, where's this function running? Okay, I'm going to add one variable in here, and this will be tile 2. And actually, I think we want that in both of these. Tile 2. And let's connect that up quick. Let's reroute this, kind of like this. I get really OCD on how this looks, if you haven't been able to tell, but it does make it a lot easier when you're coming back to stuff if you don't have just random lines going all over the place. And we'll go there. Okay. And we're going to have to run a function that I think we have to create, but let's grab our selected unit array and our player index. And I'm just going to kind of get this set up, reroute. Selected unit array, grab this and clear. We'll come back and fill this in. I'm just kind of trying to get everything set up for us. And then set our unit selected to false. So we'll move our units. We'll do the code within the actual tile we're moving to actually move the units to that tile. and then we'll clear the selected units from the player controller, and then we'll set this variable to off. So let's shift over into our HexTile. And I'm just going to do this via function. I think will probably be the cleanest. So move units to new tile. And we want a couple inputs in here. Our second one will be an integer, and that'll be the player index. And our top one will be our units. So BP pawn unit master. And we'll make that an object reference, and then we'll make this an array. And we'll call this incoming units. And first thing we'll do is we'll set our owning player index. So when a player moves their tiles into a new tile, we want now this tile to belong to that player. And then we'll come off our incoming units and do a for each loop. And reroute these. Okay. And I think we need another function. Yes. Oh, no, I think I already have it. Can units go on tile? Let me make sure this is correct. Yes, okay. So the way I'm setting my game up is you can't have more than 3 units on a tile. So that's what this function we created earlier does. So we can just drag that in here, and it's a peer cast. Let me get back. So we'll do a branch. So for each loop, the units will only move into the tile if there's space for them, basically. So if we already have a unit on that tile and you're trying to move 3 units to the tile, only 2 of them will move there and 1 will stay behind, is how the logic will work. And then after this, we want to get a couple different references. One will be the owning tile. Not set. We want to get owning tile. And from our owning tile, we want to get units on tile. So within our tile, there's this array of units on tile. So when units move to a tile, they get added to this array. But right now, the units that are moving to a new tile, they still belong to the old tile in the logic. So we want to remove them from that tile. So we'll come off this units on tile and do remove item. Connect that to the true. What we are going to remove is the actual unit. Okay. Set owning tile server. I think, do we have this event somewhere? Oh, this is messy. I'm gonna have to clean this up. Yep, okay. Set owning tile player index server. So that's what we remove. Set owning player index server. Actually, no, this isn't what we want to do. One sec. This is the event we want to run. So within our actual unit class, we have the set owning tile server. So the unit needs to know what tile it belongs to, which is its owning tile. And that is done via this logic here. So let's go back into our tile. And after we remove the unit from that tile, we need to tell the unit what its new tile is. So set owning tile server. Put that up to here. And the owning tile will just be self. And let's make sure we have this replicated. So this variable within your BP pawn unit master should be replicated. And from there, come off this again, set selected, set that to false. Okay, and then unit unselected multicast. So within this logic, all we have now is when you select the unit, they kind of pick up, rotate. This sets them back to their base position. And then within the tile we're moving to, we're going to grab units on tile and add. Connect this to here. And then we'll get unit tile location. So this is a macro we set up, which is based off these kind of spawn points. So it's going to get the location of where to put this unit. And then from here, we'll do set unit location. How did we do that? Okay, I think we actually have to make this event quick. So go into your BP pawn unit master. And let's find a good space for this. Let's go over here. Make a new custom event. This will be set unit location server. And this will run on the server and be reliable. We want a variable that will be a vector. Call this new location. And then we'll create another custom event. Set unit location MC for multicast. Make that a multicast and reliable. I'll have the same input, new location. So from our server event, simply set unit location multicast, pass this through. Then we will get a reference to self and set actor location. Connect this to here and connect this. Okay, now come back to our BP tile. And from here, off of our actual unit, set unit location server and connect that. Okay, I think that is good for this line of code. But we need to do something off this false. So if the unit can't go on the tile, then we'll just copy and paste this selected. So we still want the unit to be unselected. And we will just come off this unit unselected MC. Boom. Cool. Okay, so when we select the tile we're moving to, we'll set its player index, the player that's moving their units onto the tile. If all of the units can fit or each individual unit can fit, we'll remove them from their old tile, set their new tile, mark them as unselected, add them to the new tile, and then get their location. And if they can't, they'll still remain on the same tile, but they'll be unselected, and do all of that. Cool. I think there's only one more thing we need to do, and that's, I'm going to close out of some of this. We don't need any of these spawns open. But let's go into our event graph within our tile and kind of come down here. So grab your tile mesh here, right click, add event, and on clicked. Put that up here. I want to do one more. We'll come back to that. We'll do that later. So right click, search, get player controller, and cast to PC turn-based. connect that, and from the player controller, move to tile, server, then get self, get reference to self. Okay, so when we click on the tile, we'll run this logic within the player controller. Not the server. We just want this one. Move units to tile. There we go. Okay. And let's compile and save. Okay, so then we'll do all of these checks. Move to tile server, and now we should be able to fill this in. Okay, and so from this tile 2, should now have the event move units to new tile, or I guess function that we just created. So pass that through, and then we'll pass in our selected unit array and our player index. Compile, save, clear. Okay, I think this should work now. Save everything. I'm just going to bump this down to 2. Okay. So we select this unit. Boom. Okay. So the server is moving units. And let's make sure the client can see that. So the client can see the server moving their units. So server, boom, moves them. And they're going into correct places. Let's get all 3 of them in the same tile just to make sure that goes correctly. Okay, this is strange. So we'll have to debug this. Something's going awry where he's not actually moving. Okay, we'll come back to that, but let's make sure the client can move their units. Good. Server sees it. It's replicating. Good. Grab both of these. Move to there. Okay, they're both having the same bug where it's not getting to the right location. So I'll look at that. The other thing I want to do quick though before I debug that is let's come back into our BP tile. And I want to add some right now when you're I just want to add a visual show. So like right now these are all blue, but you don't really know which one you're selecting. Obviously you can see your cursor, but I want to just kind of highlight it for the player. So again, we'll click on our tile mesh and add a event that is begin cursor over, add an event that is end cursor over, drag these up. And all we're going to do here is grab our adjacent indicator. So when the cursor goes over the indicator, we're going to set material. And when we unhover, again, we're going to set the material. So when we unhover, we can grab our adjacent tile color and just pass that through, which is coming from this array. And I'm going to create another material instance, and we'll just call this highlighted. And ideally it's yellow, but the problem is we have a theme color that's yellow. So I might make this more of like a kind of darker, almost a gold for the player color. And the highlighted, I'm going to make this much brighter, maybe something like that. And maybe I'll make this a little bit more translucent. We'll see how that looks. Okay. So now let's try this again. Oh wait, we gotta do one more thing. Come back to the tile, and then we'll set this to matte tile adjacent highlighted. And on this adjacent tile color, we'll make it replicated. I don't think it has to be, but we'll set it. We'll make it replicated nonetheless. Okay, so when I grab this unit and I hover, so you can see where we're moving to is getting highlighted. And you can play around with the colors. It shows up okay, but I wonder if I might do a purple. Maybe make this 0.8 again, the kind of default. See if that stands out a little bit better. You can obviously do whatever color you want. But I think that works, and then that should work for all the players too, where player yellow doesn't get confused. Cool. All right, so we got movement done. I'm going to try to debug that, why we can't move 3 units on the same tile, and I'll be back. Okay, I found the issue, and I actually have this in my actual project too, so this was a good debug. So what's happening is we're getting a unit location. So location if there's 0 units, 1 unit, or 2 units already on the tile. But what's happening is we're adding the units to the tile, and then we're getting a location. So we just have to reverse the order of these. Because the unit is getting added as a 3rd unit, which doesn't have a return. And we could add that in, but I think this is cleaner because it'll work better with our spawn logic. So have get the unit tile location first, then set that location, and then add the unit to the array. And so now, if I grab both of these units, they're both moving into position perfectly. And we'll move in here. We can select all 3. Boom. Good. And I'm just going to test one more thing. This might be a little long, but this unit should not be able to move into this tile yet, which is what we'll start our attack. Good. So I'm clicking it, nothing's happening. I'm going to set the logic. The other thing I want to do is I don't want these mountains to be passable. Right now they can move on it. So I'm going to add in that logic quick. And the way we will do that, let me figure out where I'm doing this. Okay, so within our HexTile, go back to our event graph, and on clicked, let's slide all this over. We're going to create a new variable, which we call can be traversed. And this will be a Boolean and a single reference. And I'm going to make this replicated. And I just want to think about how do I want this to get set. So bring this in into branch. So can it be traversed true? If not, do nothing. And I think, yeah, okay, so we'll do that up here. So when the game starts, we spawn all the tiles, and we go off this enumeration for what kind of tile it is. So at the end of each of these lines of code, we'll set this variable, which is going to be pretty tedious, but oh well. So if it's invalid, I don't want you to be able to traverse it. If it's water, can't be traversed. Keep site mine. All of these but mountain will be true. So connect this, true. And all of these can go up here. Just go like this. And where's our mountain dunes? Mountains, that one. Okay, our mountain will be false. And then our random, since our random is always desert, forest, or the grassland, those will all be traversable. And then this is running on the server, and we'll set this variable, which we have as replicated, and that should pass through to this, and then you can only move to a tile if true. Perfect. Okay, the next thing I want to do is, we have this kind of little outline on the tiles. I want these to change the color of the owning player. So we're going to set up that logic. So the outline of these will be blue, the outline of these will be red, and then as you move onto a tile, it changes the color so everybody can just quickly see who owns what tile. So let's set that up. Okay, so we're going to do this within our HexTile. Off of our begin play, I'm going to add in a couple things here. So I'm going to shift this over, and we'll do a switch has authority. So basically, if it has authority, it's running on the server. If it doesn't, it's running on the client. Only the server can interact with the game mode. So just do off the true interactive game mode. And then we're going to do a branch. And for this branch, grab our owning player index. And is this less than 4? Because if you remember, we'll have 4 players. Being index is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if it's lower than 4, then it's either 0, 1, 2, or 3. So if that's true, we'll then set the color. And if it's not, it's the neutral tile, we won't do anything. And I'm going to take this remote. I'm going to pass that through to here as well. We'll reroute this below to make it look clean. Okay. And so let's add a function, and let's call this set tile t color. And within here, we'll grab our tile mesh and set material by name. And this is kind of important for how you set yours up. So go into any of your tiles. You want a material name, a slot name that is top, or whatever you want to call it. But for me, I called it top. So that's just this piece. So the way you do that, if you don't have it set up that way, is within Blender. You need to create some material slots and title them whatever you want. So like this kind of blue is my grass. I have the edge, which is this pink, and then the top, which is this white. And then when you export it with those names, that will be what your material slots are. So I call mine top. You can call yours whatever you want, but you do want this consistent across all of your tiles. So they should have the same nomenclature. The reason that's important is when we come back into our BP hex tile, the material slot name I want to set a material for is top. So that's where I'm figuring out which one we're going to do. And then what we're going to do is we create a new variable, suppose player color tile array. And this will be a material instance and an array. We'll have 4 options. Get, pass this through, and what we'll be getting is our owning player index. So very similar to how we did the adjacent indicator, but now we have to create the materials. And the way I want to do this, right, you could just use your unit colors if you wanted to, but I want mine to be a little bit more translucent. We have 2 material slots. Oh, that's kind of annoying. Should have done it this way. Well, this is fine. I'm gonna create a couple folders so just to make this better. So we'll call these adjacent, and I'll dump all these into here. And tile colors, or more accurately, materials. And I'm actually going to set this up in here too. So the new material, call this tile border master. And what I want to do in here is hold 3 and get a 3 constant, convert that to a parameter, just call it base color. And then we'll do a multiply, pass that through, hold 1 to get a single constant, convert that to a parameter, call that glow. So I'm just going to make this kind of a highlight almost. And then we'll pass this all through to emissive color. Let's make the default white. And then I want to do one more constant at 0 for metallic and set that to none. And our glow, let's make that a default at 10. So right, you can see what this kind of looks like. So come back to this one, we'll create a material instance, and we'll do tile border blue. Open this up, select the base color. I think I'll do kind of a lighter blue. You can duplicate this for red, green, and yellow. Open all those up. So blue's good, yellow, something like that I think looks good. Or red. I kind of like the pink. I think that'll stand out a little bit better. And then green. Darken that a little bit. Okay. Close these. Okay. And then back within our HexTile, select our array, and then we'll drag these in. So number 1 will be blue. 2 will be red. 3 will be green. And 4 will be yellow. File, save. And I think it's as simple as that, but now we have to call this. So let's go into our event graph, and I do want this to actually run off of default. So when we start the game, if there's units on there and the tile belongs to somebody, we're going to do this. I'm going to do a slight delay, just 0.5 seconds. We'll probably have to rework this later for some of the logic, but basically what will happen is this begin play will run as soon as the game loads, and the server or the host of the game will be what prompts that, but the clients might just take a little bit of time to actually join the game. So actually, let's make this 3 seconds. So if you run this too early, it'll run before the clients actually initialize, which we can do some logic within the game mode under our event post login to, kind of repeat that event. I think we'll probably build that in later. But for now, this will be a quick and easy fix for it. And actually, we don't need to do 3 seconds. I think we can do 0.5. So on the begin play, do this logic, and then after a slight delay, set unit team color. And is there anything else I want to do in here? I think that's fine. Okay, and then when we move units to the tile, I think we want to call this, let me see what I'm calling this. And before we go any further, I'm just going to check this is working because it should work off of the begin play. Okay, so that looks pretty good, except for this tile shouldn't be highlighted. Let's make sure server can see client and client can see server. This one's highlighted, and I think that's probably just logic in here. These are set to 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. Let me just look at our table quick. Maps, 4-player. Well, that's where we're at. Is it assets? I have no idea why this tile is being highlighted. Which one would that be? That would be 3. So it'd be this row, tile 23, which is set to 9. Hmm. 23, player index 9. Oh, that's so strange. I don't know. I'll have to I'll debug that offline. But let's continue anyways. So we at least have that part of this working. So then what we're going to do is we got to create a couple events. So this is going to run on both the server and the client, right? The switch on authority will differentiate the two, but they'll reconnect here. I wonder, let me try one thing. Let me bump this delay up. No, that didn't change anything. Okay, so anyways, this is essentially basically how this is working. It's running on the server and the client, so it's almost like a multicast. Um, but we're going to need to kind of redo that for when we're actually moving units to the tile. So we're going to create a custom event. And we'll call this set tile team color server. And this will run on the server, will be reliable. And then custom event set tile team color MC. And this will be a multicast reliable. And this will have an input integer single reference and controlling, let's call it player index. Okay, so the server will run the set tile color multicast. And from here, we'll pass our own player index. And then from the multicast, we will then do the set tile color. And I'm actually going to add an input in here, which will be an integer player index. And I'm going to remove this, and we're just going to pass it through manually. I think this just makes the replication a little bit cleaner. It should work either way, but this would be fine. So then we have to come back into our event graph here quick, come up to the begin play, and drag this player index here. And we can copy that, come back down to the new events we created, and connect this to here. And then on our move units to new tile function, on the completion of this loop, we will do set team color server, which will then run the multicast, which will then do setting the color for everybody. All right, let's test it out. Okay, so when we grab this unit, move to this tile, setting that to blue, move it to this mine, setting that highlight to blue. The client can see that. They can see kind of what tiles the server's gone over. Let's see if it works for the client. Good, that's red. Can the server see it? Yes. Perfect. So now you can kind of, everybody can see what tiles you control. And then obviously for me, right, different tiles mean different things. So it's kind of blank tiles, really won't have much effect, but this farm will give some econ, the mine will give some econ, and the whole objective of the game is to capture and hold 2 of these sites. So now players will at least be able to see who owns what. I'm going to try to debug this weird color thing quick. I'll come back with that solution, and then I want to clean up some of the unit selection, and then we'll call it. All right, I found the error. So within my CSV, which is what's actually being imported into Unreal Engine, for some reason I put a 0 here. This should be a 9. So I'm going to resave that, come back into the engine, re-import, and now that has fixed the problem. So good. Let me get rid of some of these print strings I had. And this stuff. Okay, really simple fix, but should be all set. Okay, so now what I want to do is, so if you're selecting these units from these tiles, and then you select a unit from outside the tile, right? These units should unselect first because you're selecting different units, right? And then you can see this gets really buggy. So we're going to work on fixing that. And then also, if you have units selected and then you click the tile they're on, it's just going to deselect them. So let's do that logic now. And so how we're going to do this is currently within our pawn. When we click on a unit, we'll do this select unit server, and we want to do a check here. So let's go into our player controller, and we'll add a new function. And I'm just going to call this selected unit check. And we'll have an input. And this input will be a EP HexTile pipe. And it'll just be the unit tile. And so does this equal the selected tile from? Which, let me check one thing, because when we select a unit, okay, let's plug this in now. So I'm going to drag all of this over. And off of this player controller, which we're passing to, or through selected unit check, plug this in. And this actually needs a output, which will be a Boolean. And we just do can select unit, question mark. Move this over. And we'll do a branch Basically, can we select this unit? And then if true, we'll carry on and get a reference to self, and we'll pass through the tile, or not self, owning tile. So we'll select the tile that this unit currently belongs to. And let me just clean this up. A little bit at least. Okay, so we'll come back into here. Okay, so I'm going to move this way over. So let's create a branch. So our first check is going to be, is the tile that the unit we just selected, the tile that that unit belongs to, is it the same tile that we're selecting units from already? If that is true, well, what we're going to check is we'll grab our selected unit array, get the length, and is this greater than 2? Do another branch. Plug this true into here. So if we already have, so are they in the same tile? Yes. But do we have more than 2 units selected, i.e. 3 units already selected? If that's true, then we can't select another one. All right, so this will return as false. This really should never happen because you should only be able to have 3 units in one tile. That's how we have this set up. But this is just kind of a redundant check, but worth having. If this is false, so we don't already have 2 units or 3 units or more selected, let's say you have 0 or 1 unit selected or 2 units selected, then this can return true. So we can select the unit. Okay, now we'll do logic. If the tile we're trying to select units from is not equal to the tile we're using, then what we'll do is we'll grab our selected unit array again, and we'll do a for each loop. And plug this in. So we're going to deselect all of the units that we currently have selected. So off of the array element selected, we'll set the selected to false for each of those units that we already had selected. And then we will do a unit unselect multicast. Okay, and then we will grab this again and we'll clear it. Off of the complete above the for each loop. And we'll get our select tile from, we'll do a convert to a validated get. So what this logic is checking is, do we even have a tile from? Right, by default, this is blank, right? It's nothing. So if we do have a tile from already selected, we want to come off of this and toggle adjacent tiles, and we want that to be false. So we're going to get rid of the indicator, those little circles, because basically we're selecting a different tile. And then after that, we're going to drag this down. So this is the new tile we're basically doing. Add selected tile from. So what this will do, let's move this down a little bit, is this will run this event that makes this the kind of active tile for the player controller, and then we'll get the adjacent tiles from that. And from there, we will return as true. And if the selected from tile is not valid, so we don't even have one selected, then we can skip this toggle and then just go right into adding it as our selected from tile. And it'll return here. Okay, I think this should work. So we'll do all that logic as soon as we select the unit within our BP pawn unit master, and then only run the logic if true. So let's test it out. Try the server first. So grab this unit, no problem. I can grab this unit because it's in the same tile. If I have this unit selected and then I grab a unit in a different tile, boom, unselects these units and gets rid of those adjacencies. Right, so I'm going to select this unit, good, select this unit, good, select this unit, and it flips it. And let's make sure that works for the client. Good. Oops. This guy back. Make sure we can grab both. Good. Select this guy. Good. Perfect. Okay. I think it's a pretty good spot, I think, to end it. Really, kind of where we're at now is we can move units around. You debug some stuff. But I think we can get into more of the fun parts of the game. Eventually, right, we'll add in logic where you can only move on your turn and that stuff. But for kind of setting it up, it's easier to test things when you're don't have a lot of constraints like that. Obviously, this isn't how the game will play, where you can just move units outside of your turn at will. But we'll clean that up in later videos. I think what we'll probably do in the next one is I might work on the combat actually. I think that would be pretty fun. So thanks for watching, and yeah, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or running into any challenges, just leave a comment, and I'll be happy to help you out. Thanks.